Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
This has been a bizarre year for the Labour Party, buoyed up by those opinion polls during the election campaign, only to experience one of their worst defeats ever. And then Jeremy Corbyn, Shazam, wins the leadership, followed by fierce internal debates and all too visible splits on Trident and Syria. Angela Eagle is the most senior member of the Shadow Cabinet after Mr Corbyn. She stood in for him recently in the Prime Minister's Questions rather triumphantly, and she's with me now. Welcome to you. I'll keep wanting to call you Angela Eagle because you've been doing so well.
Yeah, there is another Angela on the block.
There is another Angela on the block. Well, we'll see for how long. Now, you had a very, very good time in the House of Commons. You must have enjoyed that moment, having everyone at your back.
Well, I did. It's nice to be able to do something like that, and not very many people ever get the chance to do it. And I have to say, I relished it. I enjoyed myself.
And a little tickle of ambition at the back. Do you know what? I could do this full time. You said yourself, it's time the Labour Party had a female leader before too long. You're behind the Tories on this.
There will be a female leader at some stage. Of course, we've had two female leaders in Harriet Harman and Margaret Beckett. But, you know, we've got a leader. Yeah. We've had a leadership election 3 months and a bit ago, I think 100 days on Monday. And it's my job to work with the leader that we've got to try to get the party positioned so that we can have a go at being the opposition to the Tories and demonstrate some of the mistakes that they're making, but also get ourselves sorted so that we can put a compelling case to the British people in 2020 to give us a chance at government again.
And he is the best leader you've got. Whether or not I'm looking at the next Labour leader, we'll leave to viewers to think about. But meanwhile, the leader you've got has given an interview we were talking about in the paper review to the Sunday Times, in which he says he is definitely going to be in place until 2020. After the Oldham by-election, he is kind of unassailable, isn't he?
Look, our leader is of 3 months standing. Our job now is to take the fight to the Conservatives, and we've been doing that on tax credits and the climb down we had here on that. We've been doing it on things like green industries and some of the climb downs that the government, the abandonment of our lead in green technologies. We'll be doing it on economic policy. That's our job as Her Majesty's opposition.
And you'd like to see him lead you into the 2020 election?
We have our leader. My job, I am
smirking here.
I know you're smirking, but my job, I'm chair of the National Policy Forum, is my job to try to get us in a position where we can have a long, hard look at why we lost. We've lost 2 elections. We've got to remake our approach to the British people, and we've got to come up with forward-looking policies which are all about hope, ambition and aspiration for that challenge in 2020.
And you've got a range of policies to look at, but there are still some very, very fundamental differences over peace and war, over the Syria bombing and so forth, over Trident and so on. In the interview, Jeremy Corbyn says that he makes clear he was pretty angry about the behaviour of MPs after Hilary Benn gave that pro-interventionist speech. He talks about jingoistic clapping in the House of Commons. Do you think it was jingoistic clapping?
No, I don't think it was. I think it was genuine admiration for the case that had been made by Hilary Benn, which I have to say was far better than the case that the Prime Minister managed to make. And can I say at this stage that I think we're all hopeful that the new UN resolution, which again was passed unanimously, will begin to create a political process to deal with the terrible situation in Syria. 250,000 people killed, 4 million people displaced, and that is what's causing a lot of the instability in the Middle East. And it's about time, well, I think it's about time that the world decided it's got to bring itself to bear to deal with the tragedy that's going on in Syria.
Now, like you, Hilary Benn disagrees with the leader very much on Trident, and there have been mutterings and murmurings in the papers today that he might be removed as Shadow Foreign Secretary. Would you like to see that happen?
Look, I'm not going to speculate about any future kind of reshuffle that Jeremy will have. I think the important thing for the Labour Party, and this is what I tried to do at Prime Minister's Questions, is to take the fight to the Conservative Party. We have here a Conservative Party visibly falling apart now on the European Union. You have just interviewed Liam Fox, who's basically said he thinks the Cabinet shouldn't have any collective cabinet responsibility at all. We've got a Prime Minister almost playing
So
Russian
this
roulette with...
This is exactly the frustration, I guess, for a lot of Labour Party people. There are lots of problems on the Tory side, and in a sense, the more people focus, and I know I've just been doing it myself on Jeremy Corbyn and so forth, the less we're focusing on what's going on. So let me ask you about two big issues this week. A big report out saying there's been a sharp increase in inequality because the people at the top, the well-off, the people who just have houses in the south of this country are getting rich on the basis of an asset bubble so much faster than the people in the bottom. This has now become a big social problem.
Well, inequality and the growth of inequality is a huge social problem, but it's also a problem of economic sustainability. It would lead to another crash if you have those kinds of imbalances. And apart from that, what about the life opportunities and the potential of people that never get a chance to get on in life? Any political party, and the Labour Party will be doing this, has got to look to see what we can do about this to create a more sustainable, socially just society. That's at the core of why we're in politics.
And so we have this, we agree, we have this asset bubble, housing bubble at the top. Do you think, are you attracted by ideas like those of Tristram Hunt for some kind of new, graduated, more sophisticated wealth tax to start to take, damp that bubble down and take a bit of the money from the top and redistribute it?
Well, what we have to do as part of our policy review, and what I hope to be at the centre of doing as chair of the National Policy Forum, is to look at what we can do to address these problems and create a more socially just society. Far too early in the Parliament to have actual policies, but we've got to have debates, and all power to Jeremy's elbow. He has said that the Labour Party has got to discuss and have debates about things, and he's very open about that. That is what we need to do to renew our appeal to the British people. And
he wants to do it increasingly through what looks like a kind of electronic plebiscite. He asks party members what they think, whether it's about arming the police, another big issue this week, or whatever it might be. They give a result. And there has been the implication, you've talked several times about the National Policy Forum, which is where the parties, as it were, clever grandees get together and work out the detail of policy.
They're not clever grandees, they're 200 members of the party that have been elected geographically and representing different sections of the party to be those that make decisions which then go to conference.
So you would not like that, presumably, to be abolished?
No, and in fact the National Executive Committee at its meeting in November said it didn't want the National Policy Forum abolished. But what we can do with digital technology is have platforms where we can have much more meaningful debates, where we can involve not only our party members but wider members of the public in discussing the way forward for our country in policy terms, and that's got to be a good thing. We need to make sure that political parties reach out to the public at large to deal with this alienation that we've got at the moment between those who believe politics are important and those who believe it's just some kind of game that's selfish. It isn't. It's about what kind of a society we want.
Before I come back to the National Policy Forum, what's your view? It does seem to be that this is a moment when the more routine arming of the British police with more liberal use of guns on the streets, if that's what's going to happen. We know it's a moment, isn't it? We're crossing a Rubicon of some kind.
Well, look, there have to be safeguards because we know what happens when people shot wrongly, and we saw that with Jean-Charles de Menezes. But we also need to give our armed police the confidence, if they're dealing with a marauding terrorist of the sort that we saw in Paris, that they can get that person down and get them on the ground and save life. It's important to get the balance right. It's got to be democratically decided, but we just can't have shoot to kill without any kind of democratic involvement.
There's a very good example of a complicated, nuanced policy which has to be worked through.
There's no yes or no answer to that.
So is your message then that the use of the democratic new membership, all those hundreds of thousands of people, that is very good as an advisory thing for the Labour Party, but it can't be the final policy-making mechanism? Well,
we don't make policy by plebiscite because there are very few policies that have clear black and white yes or no answers in a complex world. What we need to have is debate and decision-making after everybody has been listened to, democratically arrived at through the policies processes, and I'm determined to deliver a much better version of that than we've had in the past.
Angela Eagle, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning.
I've been getting away with it.